Have you ever seen your cat scratching the floor around their food bowl like they are trying to bury it? Most owners think this means the cat hates the food, but throwing it away is a huge mistake. Your cat is actually trying to save it. Chapter 1. The Caching Instinct. Most people have seen this behavior at least once. Some see it every single meal. Your cat walks away from their bowl, turns around, and starts pawing at the floor beside it. Determined, focused, like the floor itself needs to be moved. It looks strange. It looks picky. It looks, honestly, a little insulting. But here's the layer underneath it that almost no one reaches. Your cat is not rejecting that food. They're protecting it. Animal behaviorists who study feline feeding behavior have observed this across domestic cats, feral colonies, and wild small cat species alike. The behavior has a name, food caching, and it goes back thousands of years. Before bowls, before kitchens, before scheduled mealtimes. When a small wild cat made a kill, eating the entire thing at once wasn't always possible or safe. Leaving it exposed meant something else would find it. So they covered it, buried it, marked it as theirs, and came back later. Your cat still has that wiring, completely intact. The fact that the food is in a ceramic dish in your kitchen doesn't change what their nervous system is telling them to do. They're not telling you the food is wrong. They're telling you it's worth keeping. This connects directly to something in Chapter 4 because the caching instinct doesn't work alone. There's a second layer driving it, and once you see them together, the whole picture shifts. But first, the part that surprises most people. Chapter 2. The scent masking. Here's something most owners never connect. The scratching isn't just about hiding the food from sight. It's about hiding something you can't even detect. Think about the last time your cat did this. Really picture it. Were they scratching in front of the bowl? To the side? Did they ever bring something, a corner of a towel, a piece of paper, anything nearby, and drag it toward the dish? Because if they did, you just watched something remarkable. Quick question. Have you ever noticed your cat using an actual object? A towel, a paper bag, a napkin to cover the bowl? That's not a quirk. That's an instinct so specific it has one purpose. They are hiding the scent from rival predators. Cats have a far more precise understanding of odor than we do. Leftover food doesn't just smell like food to them, it broadcasts a location. To other animals. To competitors. To anything in the area that might want what they have. The scratching motion is the same motion wild cats use to move dirt and debris over a cached meal. The goal isn't visual concealment, it's olfactory concealment. Your cat is not being dramatic. They're running an ancient security protocol in the middle of your kitchen floor. And this matters because it means the behavior isn't about the food itself at all. It's about what the food represents. A resource. Something worth defending. Before we get into why this happens more with certain feeding habits, a quick moment. If this is already changing how you see your cat, it would mean a lot if you hit like. It helps other cat owners find this too. Chapter 3. The portion control problem. There's a specific pattern that triggers the caching instinct more than anything else. And when you hear it, you'll probably recognize your own feeding routine in it. Most cat owners are doing this without realizing it. Here's what animal behaviorists consistently observe in domestic cats. Caching behavior increases significantly when the amount of food in the bowl exceeds what the cat wants to consume in a single sitting. Not because the food is bad, because there's too much of it. Think about what that means. In the wild, a small cat, a species roughly your cat's size, might take down a mouse or a small bird. That's one portion, roughly the size of a fist. They eat what they can, they cache the rest. Then they move on. Now picture your cat's bowl. A full cup of kibble, a generous scoop of wet food, maybe more, because you want to make sure they're not hungry while you're at work. From your cat's perspective, that's not a meal, that's an overwhelming surplus. And their nervous system responds the same way it always has, by trying to store the excess. The scratching around the bowl isn't a complaint, it's inventory management. Your cat is doing the math you didn't do for them. Research into feline feeding patterns suggests cats are biologically calibrated for multiple small meals, not one or two large ones. The caching reflex is one of the clearest signs that the portion size doesn't match what their system expects. And in Chapter 5, you'll see exactly how to read when your cat is telling you this in real time without any guesswork at all. But understanding the portion problem is only half of it. because there's another trigger and it has nothing to do with how much food is in the bowl. Chapter 4. The cleanliness factor. What you've probably been calling floor scratching behavior. In your cat's language, it has a completely different meaning depending on when it happens during the meal. Here's the distinction almost no one makes. Be honest. Have you ever watched your cat scratch before they've even touched the food and then again after they walk away? Two separate moments. Same motion. Different reasons entirely. The pre-meal scratch is the caching instinct, what we've been talking about. But the post-meal scratch? That one is about the bowl itself. Cats are meticulous about their feeding area. Animal behaviorists note that in the wild, a messy feeding site, bones, scraps, blood, lingering odor, is a liability. It draws attention. It signals to other predators, something was eaten here, something worth eating, which means something worth waiting for. So, after a meal, your cat surveys the area. If there's residue on the rim of the bowl, if there's wet food that's been sitting long enough to change its smell, if there's a smear on the mat beneath the dish, their instinct is to cover it, clean it, neutralize it. Your cat has scent glands along the pads of their paws. When they scratch the floor in a deliberate covering motion, they're doing two things simultaneously: physically moving debris over the area and depositing their own scent marker as a territorial claim over the space. It's not chaos, it's a maintenance routine. This is the callback to the hook, because the same cat who seemed to be rejecting their food is actually performing two separate acts of preservation. One before the meal, one after, both driven by the same ancient logic. What you can actually do about both of these triggers is more straightforward than you'd think. And that's exactly what Chapter 5 covers. So now that you understand why, here's how. Chapter 5, the done signal. This next part is why I wanted you to stay, because the advice you'll usually find on this gets it completely wrong. It focuses on the bowl, the food, the brand. None of that is the point. The point is learning to read your cat before the scratching starts. Your cat gives you a signal every single meal that tells you, clearly and specifically, that they're finished eating. Not unhappy, not rejecting the food, finished. And once you know what to look for, you'll never misread it again. Here's what it looks like. Your cat takes a few bites. Then they pause not to look up at you, not to sniff the air, but to physically step back from the bowl. One full step, sometimes two. They orient their body away from the food. Then, and this is the key detail, they sit down. Not beside the bowl, away from it, far enough that the bowl is no longer between their paws. Animal behaviorists call this displacement posture. It's the feline equivalent of pushing your plate to the center of the table. The meal is over. What remains in the bowl is now surplus, and the caching instinct kicks in within seconds of that posture shift. If you remove the bowl at that moment, before the scratching begins, you've just worked with your cat's biology instead of against it. No scratching, no wasted food, no confusion. Watch for the step back. That single movement is the cleanest signal your cat will ever give you. And there's one final layer to this, the bigger change that makes all of it click into place. The one that adjusts the whole feeding rhythm, not just the individual meal. That's what we're ending on. Chapter 6, the small meal solution. Remember what I said at the very beginning, that your cat wasn't rejecting the food? That they were trying to save it? This is what saving it actually looks like. The single most effective change you can make isn't a new bowl. It isn't a different brand of food. It's this. Divide your cat's daily portion into 3 or 4 smaller servings instead of 1 or 2 large ones. That's it. Same food, same total amount, just distributed across the day, in portions that match what their body expects to consume in a single hunting cycle. Veterinary nutritionists who study feline feeding behavior suggest that a natural meal size for a domestic cat is roughly the caloric equivalent of 1 small prey animal. A mouse, a small bird, that's not much. Certainly not a full cup of kibble presented at once. When the portion size matches the hunting cycle expectation, something shifts in your cat's nervous system. The surplus signal never fires. The caching instinct stays quiet. Not because you trained it out of them, but because you removed the trigger entirely. Cats fed in smaller, more frequent portions show fewer food guarding behaviors. Less scratching, less covering, less anxiety around the bowl, because the bowl stops representing an overwhelming resource that needs protecting and starts representing exactly what it should be. One meal, consumed, Complete. The scent masking instinct, the pre-meal caching, the post-meal cleanup scratching, all of it traces back to one root signal. Too much at once. Adjust that, and the ancient wiring finally gets to rest. You came into this video thinking your cat had a problem with their food, but your cat doesn't have a problem. They have a memory, one that is millions of years old. Every scratch on your kitchen floor is that memory speaking quietly, precisely, in the only language it knows. The cats that scratch the most aren't the pickiest ones. They're the most prepared ones. Your cat isn't burying their food because they don't want it. They're burying it because some part of them has always believed they might need it later. And that is the oldest form of planning any creature can do.